Hey everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to Engagement Weekend. Today we are taking a look at two more engagement interviews and what may have been taken as inspiration from those interviews for Meghan and Harry's engagement interview. If you missed the video in which we dissected Harry and Meghan's engagement video, I will link it for you. We also went over many royal couples' engagement announcements and engagement photos. You don't want to miss that special fashion edition either. So, time to compare the engagement interviews. At the time, Kate Middleton, who we now know as Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Prince William had their engagement interview before their 2011 wedding, where they became the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge. Their engagement interview was very, very calm, very, very sweet. It definitely had a different vibe compared to Meghan and Harry's. I would say the thing that stands out to me most, because I watched them all in a row just now, the thing that stood out to me the most was that Catherine and William's seemed so much more relaxed and comfortable and calm. Harry and Meghan's, in contrast, did have some moments where it felt a little bit forced or a little contrived, quite frankly. Now, again, I have admitted, now knowing so much more about the couple of Harry and Meghan, the Sussex couple, there is some bias. I'm not saying there's not. It's really impossible to look back on something and ignore everything that you know now. But if we were going off the basis of benefit of the doubt, then Meghan definitely came across a lot more anxious and interjected a lot as compared to Catherine, who seemed a lot more calm. And Catherine and William also just shared a lot more giggles and whatnot that felt really natural and felt very in sync with each other. Now, that's to be expected. Catherine and William had been together for a very long time. They had planned on getting engaged for about a year before they actually did, I think is what he said in the interview. Harry and Meghan had only known each other for like a year and a half. So there's definitely going to be a greater level of comfort and relaxation and trust just exuding from this long-term couple as compared to the newer couple. And that definitely came through. And that's not saying anything is bad or wrong or right or better. It's just obvious when you have a long-term couple, that sort of confidence with one another and bond with one another that's just so different than when it's new. I mean, anytime you've been with somebody for such a long time, you know so many of the little nuances. It was almost like William instinctively knew whenever Catherine sort of maybe lost her train of thought or didn't know what else to say, that he was able to jump in and finish in a natural way that didn't feel like an interjection, but rather felt like a helping hand. So that was something that definitely stood out throughout the entire interview. And the tone of it was, of the three interviews I watched, the most relaxed and the most love story feel. Catherine and William definitely have the vibe of an amazing love story that reminds me a little bit of Prince Philip and the late Queen Elizabeth's love story, that they were together from a very young age, stayed together forever and ever. Regardless of any rumors, they seemed to have such a sweet and special bond and adored one another. And I definitely get the same sorts of vibes from Catherine and William. Putting bias aside, that is in large part just due to the fact that they had been together for so much longer. One of the first questions they asked Prince William was about how he proposed. By the way, the interview was conducted by Tom Bradby. Funny. Prince William explained that he proposed while they were on a trip in Kenya, which is quite unique and special. I really found it endearing how he sort of blushed and said that he got to show his romantic side a bit when he set up the proposal, and she mentions that it was very romantic and special, and it's clear that she was delighted by the memory of it because of her body language. When she's recalling it and how romantic and special it was, she really lights up and has this bit of a bounce to her, which she immediately calms down, but it's just clear that it was a really profound and powerful memory for her and that it was very special and it was a surprise. Now, they had explained that they had discussed getting married before he proposed because he wanted to make sure that she was down, basically, with the lifestyle that they were going to have to live. So the element of whether or not they were going to marry was not a surprise to her, but the proposal itself and how he did it and what special things he may have said to her were special and romantic. This doesn't mean that Meghan Markle copied Catherine when she pointed out that it was romantic. It could just be a coincidence. Of course, proposals are meant to be romantic, but It is one thing that could have been pulled, that she wanted to make sure it was pointed out that her proposal was also romantic. However, I'm not fully on board that that was a copying moment or something like that, because duh, if you're getting proposed to, it should be romantic. Clearly, Catherine and William have one of the greatest love stories of this era, so it would make sense to want to emulate some of that if you were Meghan and not being authentic, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what happened here. Catherine was asked if she suspected the proposal was coming at all, so she had the opportunity to elaborate a little bit that it was very exciting for her and such a surprise. I really do like how bashful William is at the start of the interview especially, but throughout as well. Next, they discussed the fact that they had kept their engagement secret for several weeks, which is the same thing that Princess Diana and Prince Charles at the time did. You could speculate that that's part of what inspired the Meg to consistently mention privacy and keeping things secret for a time in their interview, because she continued to reiterate how special it was that they had some secrecy. Though, again, I'm not completely convinced that's a copycat moment. People in the public eye often do try to keep these things quiet or be strategic about when they announce it, because they are public figures. So it's not really anything new there to keep it secret. Catherine and William were friends for about a year before they started dating, and Prince William speaks about how their sense of humor helped their relationship to blossom, which I love. I'm a firm believer in humor being the best medicine and the best glue for a family unit or any relationship. If somebody cannot make you laugh and giggle uncontrollably, then, it might not be the best fit. Because for adults, humor is one of the best forms of play. And if you don't have a form of play in your relationship, then it's very, very difficult to break the ice after an argument or a disagreement or get back on track or to cheer somebody up. Like, it's a powerful tool in a relationship. So it makes sense if their relationship was kind of founded on this foundation of friendship, in which humor plays a big role. Like, you can see it in them now. They are always making each other laugh and playing off of one another and helping each other to lean into that more playful side. It makes a huge difference, and it really is a marker of a healthy relationship and a strong relationship, because humor can always save the day, like almost always. In comparing these two engagement interviews, it does make sense that Harry and Meghan were a bit on the defense on the speed of their relationship. It's likely why they kept saying how well they knew each other over and over. But with William and Kate, they not once have pointed out how well they knew each other, because it's obvious that they know each other so well. They've been together for years, and it's clear in everything from their body language to their interactions with each other that they know each other really, really well. Going off the theory that Meghan was trying to copy their engagement interview, it would make sense to drive the point home that we got to know each other well be essential in their approach from Meghan and Harry, because they really wanted to make sure people understood that they did know each other really, really well. But they don't have the same substance behind it the way Catherine and William do. And it's clear in the interview, and it's clear in their out and about interactions and dynamic with each other. You can just tell they have good jokes with each other. They make each other laugh all the time. They clearly are in sync with each other, that couple, the Waleses. But the Sussexes just don't quite have that at this point. So perhaps they were a bit on the defense about that because it's obvious. A really huge contrast that I think speaks to the two women's character who were marrying into this family. Catherine says towards the end of the interview, "I really hope I can make a difference even in the smallest way." And that's pretty much it. But Meghan goes on and on about this. The causes that we can be focused on. I take it so seriously. Now having boots on the ground. We're going to go around to the Commonwealth. It was one of the first things we talked about when we met. All the different things we wanted to do in the world and the change we wanted to see. It was a lot more me and I focused compared to Catherine's answer, which was simple and showed intention rather than these like big, far-reaching, but yet still vague, I want to see all this change. I want to do all this. I'm going to do all these things. It was just so different. It showed so much more of her character, in my opinion, than the way Meghan approached that same subject. Again, to be fair, Kate and Will had a lot more time together before this. They were much more calm and clearly on the same page with things. They point out that they had sort of agreed to build a life together before he proposed, and that he wanted to learn from the past. So he wanted to give her the time to back out if she wanted and to really see up close what things would be like. So it isn't surprising that their interview is the most polished of these three. If there was inspiration taken from Catherine and Prince William's interview that Meghan Markle used, it would be the romantic comments about the proposal itself, the desire to appear as though they knew each other way better than they actually did, speaking about keeping it a secret. Why Harry and Meghan would need to, I am unsure, and stating that it was a surprise, which was apparently a lie. But what do you guys think? Was perhaps, if you see any lines drawn between the interview with Catherine and William, of potential inspiration for Meghan Markle, please leave it in the comments what you think she may have been inspired by from their interview. Moving on to King Charles and Princess Diana, who at the time was Lady Diana and Prince Charles. He diverted to her a lot in this interview, which I never saw their interview either. This was my first time watching Charles and Diana's interview. And I was shocked and surprised because of everything that we knew played out after this. I was very much surprised at how affectionate he seemed towards her and sensitive he seemed towards her position. He diverted to her a lot in the interview, just asked her to answer the questions or asked her what she thought on the questions. They did hold hands the entire time, so that perhaps served as an inspiration for Harry and Meghan. They wanted to hold hands the whole time because we know Meghan likes to emulate Princess Diana, so perhaps the hand-holding was born from this moment. I noticed that Charles sort of even caressed her hand sweetly during the interview as if to reassure her, but also it was a clear sign of care or love even. So I didn't expect that just based off the history and the way people talk about their relationship. It would seem that they actually did have a decent start and tried to give things a decent go at the beginning. Based off this interview, don't come for me, you guys. I wasn't there for it. I do have to say the clip of whatever in love means has been so sensationalized that I was surprised in context that I didn't seem to find it like mean-spirited the way pop culture has sort of made it. In the interview, he spoke quite affectionately on her the whole time, and they were asked a little bit more personal questions like what they would do for a honeymoon, what they have in common, things that we didn't see in subsequent engagement interviews. And those aren't always the easiest questions to answer, especially in this sort of a setting when you have cameras and an interview and you're maybe a little caught off guard by some of the questions. It did seem like he was saying it more in jest rather than being dismissive or like cruel the way people have spun it over the years. Was it graceful to say whatever in love means? No, that wasn't. I would probably be pissed too. But keep in mind, these types of things can feel really uncomfortable and nobody is perfect. Nobody says the perfect things every time, and he is a guy. Perhaps he was a little uncomfortable in that moment with that question, that it felt a little odd for him or uncomfortable to answer. I mean, I know lots of guys who aren't the I love you type, and maybe that was just kind of like uncomfortable in front of cameras and stuff to say, maybe, who knows. But regardless, I just was surprised that in context it didn't seem as jarring as it did in the pop culture. Like, it's taken on a life of its own a little bit, the Charles and Diana relationship and its demise. Regardless, if there was anything lifted from this interview, I would say it's just the hand-holding, for sure. I didn't see really any other parallels between their interviews at all. Even Diana's demeanor was a lot more quiet and shy as compared to Meghan Markle's. So I don't think Meghan Markle tried to copy Diana's interview, but I do think the hand-holding may have been inspired. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by Charles and Diana's interview. She was so young, so it makes sense that it was all really overwhelming and intense and that she'd be a little less confident in it. William and Kate, as I said, come off as the most calm, sincere, and mature of these three couples' engagement interviews. They were in a long-term relationship before this, and that is unique compared to these three couples, which was really advantageous to the interview itself. For Harry and Meg, again, it was really difficult to watch from an unbiased point of view, just knowing what we knew now and how much of what she said was misleading, but I did try. What struck me the most was how Harry really truly did think it was all going to be fine. He thought she was going to join the team and he would have his Kate, and that's really what I think he thought was happening at the time. He wanted that, and she sold him on it. Traveling a lot, accomplishing things, working hard, being in the Commonwealth a lot. I mean, we know from pictures and from the past how well Harry got along with Catherine, so it would make sense that he just kind of wanted that for himself. He perhaps forgot that they were together for like almost a decade before getting engaged, that they had so much time to build those bonds necessary to do extraordinary things. Harry rushed into this with Meghan. Meghan perhaps gave him some false impressions here and there, perhaps did a little love bombing, and it didn't work out the same for him, and now he's frustrated about it. This interview really makes Harry look like he thought he was getting one thing and ended up with something else, which is what I had always thought before Spare and Oprah and Netflix. As I said before, I had felt bad for him that this chick was just not trying for him to make it work. She wanted everyone to bend to her and not lean in and try first. When you are joining someone else, a significant other, in a new country, in a new culture, it makes sense to try to learn that and to try to integrate into it. And there's many, many examples of Meghan Markle just refusing to learn about the culture she married into or to understand the significance of certain traditions or etiquette. But after everything Harry has participated in, sorts of nonsense, there's no feeling bad for Harry anymore. He is clearly just as inflammatory and difficult as she, and many have come to the realization that the only reason why Harry had a likable persona in the media was because of extensive PR gymnastics. My personal opinion is that she did come across as fake quite a little bit and a little overbearing. It's a real shame because there was potential. I think I would have given her the benefit of the doubt if I had watched this interview when it was fresh. Just as I gave her outfits and etiquette fails and awkward speech moments the benefit of the doubt at first too, I think I probably still would have here. I did go cold turkey on trust in Harry and Meghan in the South Africa interview. The "no one has asked me if I'm okay" bit is when it was like, okay, these people are not very trustworthy or behaving very good, like not acting like good human beings. But how about you guys? I've asked you guys before, when did you stop believing in Harry and Meghan? And I'm also curious to know if you think there was anything lifted from those interviews or inspired by those interviews as she rehearsed for her engagement interview. Thank you so much for joining me for this engagement weekend special 3-part series. I hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to take a look back, and I cannot wait to hear your guys' impressions in the comments section. Happy holidays to you. Thank you so much for being here again, and I hope you have a very happy day. Bye.